Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Christmas edition of Slope Talk. Today's guest is an old friend of the channel. It's Andy Rose from Snow Camps Europe. They run snow camps based out of Kaprun in Austria. This is a little bit different from my regular short form content. This is a more informal, long format where we chew the fat over skiing. We talk about the topics that we're passionate about, some of the current things, some of the things that have happened in the last few years. Andy and I have not spoken for nearly 2 winters now, so we've got a lot to catch up on. Let's get into it.
Hey Andy, welcome back. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. It has been quite a while, hasn't it? Other than a few Facebook messages, we haven't done one of these, I think, since COVID.
Possibly since COVID. I feel like we did a couple of things around. Maybe there was a bit of a Christmas special, and I know we did that big debate where we were talking about the effects of COVID on the skiing and tourism sectors. But yeah, since then, I don't think we've done anything.
Yeah. I think we were talking off camera. Obviously, we're trying to work out what it was, but I think it might have been that panel thing was the last thing we did do.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. So you've been in Canada for like nearly 2 years already.
Yeah, nearly 2 years. This will be now my second winter in Revelstoke and winter number 5 overall. So yeah, becoming I guess how will we say, bit of a veteran.
A veteran ski bum.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. And so is Canada all it's cracked up to be?
Yeah, honestly, it's a bit of a hidden secret, I think. You know, everybody flocks to Europe, whether that's for work or holidays, because, well, for so many reasons. I mean, you know, it's near to the UK as well. But once you start going and skiing and working outside of Europe, actually, you realize there's an entirely different world to the I guess sort of the ski scene, as it were, the seasonal work, the general winter life. One of the biggest things I think that took me as soon as I left and went to Japan and then here is how many Australians there are everywhere.
What'd you say to an Australian in London?
I don't know.
Lager, please.
Like, you know, like you wouldn't think that, you know, they would be, but they're just as much, if not more, passionate about travel than we are as Brits.
Oh God, yeah. Them and the Kiwis for sure. It's funny you're saying about outside of Europe, skiing outside of Europe, and I skied in America twice, and I still say to people, like, it's entirely different. It's not like skiing in Europe. The snow is different. Okay, the après is different. There isn't really the kind of après that we have in Austria. The level of service is so much higher.
Mm-hmm.
There is even an element of health and safety in ski resorts in America, which just doesn't exist in Europe, or especially in Austria.
No, like the one thing that I first noticed when I went up to the mountain at Revelstoke is there's these big disclaimer signs everywhere, and they're also on your lift passes as well. And all in all, it basically says, look, the you know, the responsibility falls on you, you know, and especially with a ski hill like Revelstoke, that I think it plays on the mind of a skier, and they basically, I think it forces them immediately to, you know, think about things safely and not do stupid things. And yes, there's always going to be accidents, but you don't have some of the stupid stuff that we see in the bigger resorts in Europe.
Yeah, it's funny because the two parts. Obviously, we've just had an avalanche in Zers, which came off like a big overhang cornice, melted in the sun and fell and came down a piste. 10 people were buried. Luckily, nobody died. They all got dug out. But we were talking about that, saying, like, should that have not been controlled? Now, maybe it should have been controlled. Maybe it wasn't for a reason. Who knows? But the chances are those 10 people aren't going to be able to sue the mounting company because it's Austria and snow can fall onto the piste. You know, doesn't happen very often, but it can. But it's quite an interesting one. But then the other thing, saying about things we've seen in Austria and the number of collisions we have on the glacier. But today we were on the Maiskoga mountain and literally just about to set off and do a demonstration, and I heard a big clatter, and I looked behind, and from about 60 meters away, a kid was sliding down, a teenager, on his belly at speed. Skis had popped off, poles had come out of his hands, and he literally slid all the way down the piste onto the flat, past me and the guest, and eventually came to a stop. Now, as it was, he was unharmed, but he was so close to hitting so many people as he came through the piece. And just totally out of control. Eastern European kid skiing with a group of family and friends. He was way in front of the adults. The adults didn't even see it happen. And it was just, it was comedic. It really was. And could have been pretty serious if he'd taken out another kid, or even if he'd hit an adult, he probably would have got seriously injured. If he'd hit a kid, they probably both would have got seriously injured. But yeah, we see it all the time, unfortunately. And they don't seem to really give a monkey's ass about it, to be honest. On the mountain, we had in November we had 7,500 people on the glacier, of which 70% of the open terrain, which was minimal, had been given to race teams and race clubs, which meant everybody else was stuck on the two main runs coming down the side of the T-bars, of which one was only half the width of it normally is. And we've got a video of 3 o'clock when everybody's coming down, and it was just bedlam, absolute bedlam. Now, on a health and safety side, one, don't give all of the terrain to the race teams, keep some for the tourists, and two, don't let 7,500 people go up when there's only about 30% of the mountain open. Crazy.
I've seen you put a couple of posts actually about that up around the number of races sort of hugging the limited space that there is right now. It seems to sort of, it's a bit of a contentious issue, I guess.
Yeah, we've done a podcast on it because of the kind of the problems that they cause in the preseason. And I understand the race teams and the race clubs need to train, especially those professionals. But we get a lot of Eastern European clubs come in, just like literally kids programs, and they'll bring 20 or 30 kids with them. They've all got these massive rucksacks. They don't actually spend any money because they take their food up with them. They don't even go into the Alpine Centre to buy a drink. They sit on the piste and they eat and drink. Then they get these race lanes, which are actually given for free. They're getting discounted club lift pass prices, and they've got the terrain. And then the people who are on, whether it be ski instructor courses, on our camps, or with other organizations up there who are paying the full price, who are going in and spending 15, 25 euros at lunch every single day, they're getting given nowhere to ski. It's ridiculous. It really is bonkers, and especially this season because the pre-season was so dry with snow. But then again, that's another reason why so many of the races are on the glacier, because they can't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Which I get it, but just to give up so much of the terrain to these race clubs seems bonkers when you're not making any money out of them. The Kitstein actually posted a picture on their social media last week, and it was looking down from the very top of the glacier, the Gipfel Center, onto what is a teaching slope, and you could see the rutted lines where the poles had been and the races had gone down.
Yeah.
And it said something like, "Oh, perfect pistes." And it was like, well, yeah, perfect when they're open, and they're perfect for teaching if you can use them. But we couldn't use them. So the only accessible beginner, low intermediate piste that had snow in it, we couldn't use. So yeah, bonkers.
Yeah.
Wouldn't happen in Canada.
do you know that there are teams and it's, I mean, there's a similar thing in the sense that, you know, they're always traveling around and trying to find space. I think that the Revelstoke is not exactly a place for, you know, like race training. You know, it is very much your extreme backcountry style skiing, but we do have ski clubs that do come here because of the vertical. Actually, there's so much of it that it, you know, it is it does provide a unique way to challenge the youngsters. So they do come and learn here. But yeah, I did just want to ask you, because I know we talked a little bit about it before we started then, but it sounds like the risk is quite high in Europe right now with the challenging conditions.
Yeah, we've not had a great deal of snow since the beginning, to be fair, and the glacier did open late October, and there wasn't a great deal of snow on there. They pushed all of the snow that they'd farmed at the end of last season, which wasn't as much as normal because the end of last season was quite dry as well.
Mhm.
And the first few weeks up on the glacier, luckily I didn't have to go up, but I was hearing reports that it was horrible. We had trainers trying to get hold of secondhand pairs of skis because there was just rocks everywhere. I eventually went up on the 5th of November and we did have a good dump of snow, which refreshed the piste. But since then, we've only had probably 2 or 3 decent days where it snowed.
Mhm.
We've had none of the kind of the 80-centimeter days. It's always been 20 or 30. Down in the village, the Friday before Christmas, we actually had a good fall of snow. And they got the Langlauf tracks open. The Maisgogel then opened with all of the machine snow they've made and the fresh snow on top. But since then, 2 days of rain, like most of Europe, the 23rd and the 24th, and then some on the 25th, above 1,600 meters, a little bit of snow, over 2,000 more snow. But now the temperatures are so warm. And this week in the village, it's going to be 10 degrees pretty much every day. So outside my apartment is the Langlauf track, and you can see the white track, but everything either side of it is a green field again. We're back to kind of August, June, August, September, kind of with a little bit of snow. So it's very, very warm. Obviously, if people are really interested, obviously I do post a snow report every Wednesday for the Kaprunnen-Kitzsteinhorn area, and we sometimes dabble with the conditions over in Zan and Saalbach as well. But yeah, it's not looking good. I've seen some photos of Saalbach and Interglemm, and it's the rain has just washed it all away, and they didn't have a great amount anyway. Obviously, we're lucky with the glacier that the snow on the glacier is good and it's cold on the glacier. Although again, this week we're going to see like +1 and 0 degrees on the glacier in December, January, which is crazy, really. But there doesn't look to be any snow in the forecast, which is the scary thing. 7 years ago, it was pretty similar to this, but then it snowed on New Year's Eve.
Mhm.
But at the moment, it doesn't look like there'll be anything for the first week to 10 days of January. So that just means the glacier is going to get busier and busier and busier. But I think from what I see on the news, America is getting all of the snow.
It's
like too much snow.
North America has been, we've been pelted like over the last week or so. You know, we had probably in the run up to Christmas Eve, we had this really severe sharp spell pretty much all across British Columbia, and I know other parts of sort of Alberta and North America also had it, and we were getting temperatures down in the town of -20. On the top of the resort, we had a wind chill of -39. So bitterly cold, not much skiing going on. On a couple of days there, I do know we sort of closed lifts or just didn't even open them on 1 or 2 days, purely out of safety for skiers and workers, you know, which is the right thing to do. And you're not going to enjoy your skiing in that conditions anyway. But it had been a cold and really dry period. We hadn't had too much like significant snow, and the autumn was really dry as well. So normally here you get snow up on the mountain during the autumn months, but we didn't get that. So when we did finally get up and open skiing 3rd of December, the first week or so, there was still a lot of rocks and tree shoots around, which was very different from last year. And then fast forward to this last week, we've had 80 centimeters in 7 days.
Wow.
So that completely transformed everything. Ground to a halt. The avalanche risk went from 0 to significant pretty much overnight, and I can attest to that. I actually got hit. My car got hit by an avalanche driving to Vancouver.
Wow.
Yeah, driving through we set off to take some friends to Vancouver, and it's probably one of the most scariest experiences I've ever been in. But we made it through, and you know, it's just coming down from it was a road next to a frozen lake, and there's a wall on the side, and just that was one of many avalanches that day. I think they ended up closing the road later that day. So yeah, it completely transformed the area. And ironically, it has gone quite warm actually in the last couple of days. We've had a bit of rain down in town, but I think it's all about to correct itself and normality set to resume. But yeah, Revelstoke is we've got some good snow, so it's shaping up to be another good year, we hope, here.
Okay. Yeah, I say we'll see. I give it another week or so, and if we don't see any, then it is going to get pretty treacherous or tricky. We
Yeah.
actually had some people booked on a 2-day off piste course, 26th, 27th, and we had to move them into February because there just isn't any off piste. There's the amount of snow that is on the piste is obviously limited. I think we're at 75 at the top of the glacier,
Yeah.
which isn't dissimilar to last year and the year before, but then the year before that, it's half of what was up there, about 145 centimeters. But
yeah, it must be kind of like tricky for, you know, like people in positions like yourselves where you're running these camps, because you are totally at the mercy of the conditions, right? And it's like, you know, what can you do?
well, you can't really, can you? Albeit our camps that were in December were fine. We were even skiing over in Saalbach and Hinterglemm, and even though they didn't have a lot of snow, Saalbach, Hinterglemm, as you know, they really know how to look after their snow. And as long as it doesn't get too warm, they can do a very good job. And we had plenty on the glacier to be going by with. We didn't really use the Maisgogel until last week. But obviously, if lifts were to start to close, then I would expect people are going to start cancelling and asking for their money back, which wouldn't be ideal. But other than that, again, we're really lucky that we've got the glacier. You know, most of the snow is above 2,000 meters. As long as it stays cold, that's not going to melt. As long as it doesn't rain over 2,000 meters, that's not going to melt. So we don't really need it to snow because the snow's already there. Obviously, it's going the quality is not going to be fantastic. But I actually trained with a lady this week 4 mornings on the Maisgogel on the bad snow purposely, that when she gets on nice snow, she'll feel a massive difference. You know, so training in bad conditions is actually quite good for skiers who are trying to become better. You know,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
yeah.
How let's sort of rewind a little bit to last season, because that was, I guess, sort of the first the first time where everyone was really coming out of the COVID bubble, as it were, and business was trying to get back to normal. How have sort of things been for Snow Camps Europe and yourself?
Yeah, so we opened in the November, and it was quite busy, and there was more holiday makers than you would normally have. Albeit there was still some travel restrictions for certain places, PCR tests and things like that. And then all of a sudden we went into a 3-week lockdown again. So it was the last week of November and the first 2 weeks of December, we went into a 3-week lockdown. And that meant that we had to cancel the camp. All of the ski instructor courses, they sent everybody home, literally within 24 hours. Then found out that they hadn't had to. And some of those people started to return after about 2 weeks, and the courses were allowed to continue because it was classed as a professional course. So professional skiing was allowed to continue during the lockdown. So when we reopened, and again, there was, I think people from the UK needed PCR tests. There was problems around getting kids in because kids weren't getting vaccinated in the UK, and Austria had this rule where the kids had to come in with a vaccine. But it was a busy winter. It was a very busy winter. I ended up working purely for myself with snow camps, and then SIA, Ski Instructor Academy, who I do a lot of work with, and we combine our camps. And we had, because of Brexit, their courses have changed significantly, and we had about 45 or 55 people in a hotel for pretty much the whole of the season. So we were taking them out every day. I actually ended up having to go into the hotel and cook for a week because the chef got COVID.
Gosh.
So I got a call saying, "You've got a restaurant, you can cook. Go to the hotel and cook for 45 people tonight." And I was like, "What? You have a restaurant, but we kind of we cook a table at a time, not 45 people all at once." So that was quite interesting. But yeah, it was a very, very busy snow wise. I can't really remember. I think the snow was okay. I don't remember any big powder days, but we still had masks. We had to wear masks on the lifts. Literally everybody got COVID. Once one person in that hotel got it, as I said, the chef got it. Everybody got it. I had it. I think it was probably my second time with COVID. The first time was before COVID existed.
Yeah.
And then the second time, I went out went out on the Sunday, and we had a very large night on medium dry sherry, and I woke up on the Monday and I was like, whoa, that's a big hangover. And I went to work and we skied, and Tuesday came and I was like, well, I still got hangover. I don't feel very good. And then Wednesday, still got hangover, but it wasn't as bad. But I still felt a bit hungover. So by Thursday, kind of, it was like, well, do I have hangover or don't I have hangover? And then we had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. So I woke up on the Friday and I didn't feel great. So I thought, I'll do a test. And I tested and I was positive. So I'd obviously been positive since Sunday, but thought it was a hangover. And then, then tested on Saturday, was positive. Tested Sunday morning, was barely positive. By 4 o'clock on Sunday, I was negative, so I could go back out. So,
that's some very strong sherry, that is.
yeah. Oh, but Harvey's, it's the best. Harvey's Bristol Cream. Slice of orange, a little bit of ice, everybody. Try it. Try it. It's your new drink. So yeah, the winter was good. We were quite busy. So camps were busy. We had some really good camps. And as I say, I worked on the 11-week course with the SIA, which was really good fun. But we're still on a hangover of COVID. There are still people coming into Austria. We had 2 ladies who should have come out last year for the camp that got cancelled because of the 3-week lockdown, who came out this year. But I've also got guests who are still waiting to come on their holidays that they deferred from COVID.
Yeah.
So it's now they deferred them and then they had to defer them again. So some people are coming out 3 times this season because they've got 2 holidays from 2 years ago, which is pretty good. So yeah. Now here's a question for you. Canada, are you feeling the cost of living crisis like everywhere else?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, Canada's a pretty expensive place as it is anyway. Like, you know, the cost of food, I mean, that's significant in itself anyway, because everything takes a very long time to, you know, it's a long distance to transport everything across Canada. And it's either all done by lorries or done by train, but either way, it takes a long time and it is expensive. Revelstoke in particular, from a living standpoint, like rent is it's a big challenge because Revelstoke is one of the very few, I guess, sort of ski destinations in the world right now where it's still very much in its infancy, you know, and it's still really only just sort of starting to develop, and there is a long-term plan for it, but already it's a massive hotspot for real estate, and especially with the exchange rate from America to Canada, you get there's a lot of Americans who have bought property out here, and for people coming and trying to work here, it's you have to be sort of trying to find somewhere as early as August if you're coming to work in the winter. That's how tricky it is. So you know, and rent can be anywhere between sort of $800 to $1,200 a month normally. So it's quite a lot. Food, I'm just trying to think, you know, a carton of milk, for example, costs roughly around $6. So what's that? £3-4, something like that.
What?
Yeah. So,
and is that since the cost of living crisis, or is it normally £3 or £4?
Well, it was like that when I got here nearly 2 years ago.
How big is this carton of milk? Is it a litre or is it 5 litres?
It's your standard 2 litre, I think.
Wow, because I'm paying about €1.30 for a litre.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I guess it's sort of maybe slightly cheaper if you're in the city. The nearest you know, I guess sort of town or city from Revelstoke is 2 to 3 hours away, really. So things are, I'd say, it's probably slightly more expensive here in Revelstoke than elsewhere. I mean, just thinking, driving down to Vancouver, around the city area, gas or fuel was about 160, 150, and then in Revelstoke, it was 180, 190. I remember at the height
Is
during
that a
all
litre again? Is it?
what do they do here in Canada? It might be liters. Yeah, I think it is liters. But yeah, it's pricey. Generally speaking, like the wages. I mean, I wouldn't say they keep up with it, but the wages are relatively high anyway, and that's one of the appeals of coming and working in Canada. But it is increasingly negated now because of the cost of living here.
Okay, interesting. Because we've seen food prices have gone up quite significantly. Obviously, petrol went up.
Yeah.
It's come down a little bit, but it's not down to where it used to be. My electricity for my apartments has gone up 50%.
Yeah.
Luckily, I'm not on gas in any of them, so that's kind of good. Although our betriebs costs, so like the service charge in the buildings, one of them has gone up about 50%.
Yeah.
Because that includes the heating and the oil. The heating is oil, and the oil has gone up massively. Obviously, the lift pass prices have gone up. But even though this cost of living crisis seems to be going on everywhere, and people are saying they're struggling, bookings are through the roof.
Yeah,
through the roof, and in hotels, I'm trying to get people rooms in hotels, and they're all going, "Oh, we're fully booked. We're fully booked." It's like you're never normally fully booked.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that. I mean, it's a similar thing here. I think there's some people who had holidays that were cancelled initially by COVID, and maybe they didn't even choose to do it last year because there was still uncertainty and with border restrictions. They've rolled it over to this year, and it's the thing in Revelstoke already. I can already see by just being on the mountain just how busy it is, and December is normally maybe one of our quieter months, and we start to get busy end of January, February, when everyone comes over from America. But yeah, they've regardless of the pricing, that they're all still coming, and I don't know, there's probably a number of reasons why that is. A lot of pent up demand. People missed out on so many years, and I know for all this sort of inflation and thing, but some people probably were able to actually save a bit during COVID, because they weren't spending as much on things like whether it's going out to the pub and now that they can finally go out and travel, that they do it because they can.
Yeah, and I suppose if it's people whose holidays have been rolled over, they've been rolled over at the price they paid 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So the holiday hasn't actually cost them any more because of the cost of living crisis. It's just the getting to the airport, the parking at the airport, the getting everything in resort.
Yeah.
What I've seen a lot of as well in the last week is the number of people who are being taught to ski by their partners, boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands is definitely more obvious than normal. And I've been getting inquiries, people asking, "Oh, we'd like to get our 8-year-old 4 2-hour privates." And then you go back and you say, "Okay, 4 2-hour privates is going to be 210 a day, so 800 whatever that will be, 840." And they come back and say, "Oh, how much is one full day?" It's 315. Or we'll have one full day then.
Yeah.
So there is an effect there for sure. But yeah, the number of boyfriends teaching girlfriends today on the MyScogel was a lot higher than you would normally expect, and it was also quite entertaining to watch because it always ends in tears.
Yeah,
the girls always start shouting at the boyfriends, and yeah,
I came across someone a couple of weeks ago who was like, want to take yeah, I was having a sort of a conversation with someone in the street, and they were like, my such and such family member used to be an instructor. We're gonna just take them up and teach. And I just said to them, well, that's fine if you want to do that, but by the way, if anything happens, it's you that's taking the liability.
Yeah,
if any injury happens to that person, and then and by the way, if a resort finds out that you've been teaching on their mountain and you don't have prior approval and you haven't paid this or whatever, yeah, you can expect a hefty bill, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's bonkers. There was so much of it again in November on the glacier, and there always is on the glacier in November. Like ski schools from other places who just come in and they don't get permission, they don't fill out the appropriate paperwork, they don't register their guests.
Yeah,
and there was even a instructor association running a course that shouldn't have been being ran as it was.
jeez. What? Why was that?
Because they are allowed to come in. So an association from another country, outside of Austria, they can come in and they can hold an exam, but they can't hold a pre-training course. That would have to be ran by someone like the Ski Instructor Academy or one of the ski schools, one of our partners.
Yeah.
These came in and they did the pre-course, then their exam.
Yeah.
They said the whole thing was an exam, but the level they were doing is like a 5-day thing, and they were here for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So it was obvious that it was a training and the exam. But yeah,
Like,
they seem to have got away with it. No one really did anything about it. But again, that's the problem. No one's doing anything about it, so people are going to continue to do it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
But that course should have been handled by one of the organizations in Capron, which has therefore lost a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
You know?
So how are things looking for you though for the rest of the season? Are you still got sort of good numbers, and what sort of things have you got lined up?
Got a camp coming up on the 7th of January, running from the 7th to the 14th, which we've got a fair few returners on. Got some new people as well. So that's going to be quite good fun. If anybody is watching this in time and wants to jump on, we can add more people to that. I then am going to work I'm going to do my snow camp stuff, and I'm working for one of the ski schools from around the 14th of January until the 5th of March. So I'm going to do some ski school stuff, help them out because, again, because of Brexit and because of COVID, everybody is short of instructors. So I'm switching over to the ski school. I'm going to run my snow camp stuff alongside that. Got a lot of privates booked in already for January, February. February half term, I'm always fully booked, but I can book more instructors. So again, if anyone's watching and they're coming to Capron, then just email me and we can sort you out. And then we got another camp running in March. At the moment, that's not got that many bookings. And as long as the snow doesn't fall, I wouldn't expect it to get many more bookings until closer to the time. But normally that March camp starts to book up in January and February. And that's normally one of our most popular ones because the snow's there. It's normally a little bit warmer and we can ski like 3 or 4 different ski areas, which is good. And then my plan is actually this year, I'm probably going to finish around Easter. I think Easter's the 18th of April this year. So I'm going to actually finish after the Easter weekend, where I would normally go on with the courses until into May. But I'm going to finish a little bit early. I have about 6 weeks off before we open our restaurant for the summer in June, because I think you know, I didn't give birth, but me and Vanessa had a baby 7 months ago. You did.
Yes. Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, cheers. So I want to spend a little bit more time with him for the 6 weeks in between winter and summer, because summer is full gas mental for 16 weeks. And even though I get to see him, I won't get to spend much time with him. So yeah, but no, winter is looking good. It's looking good at the moment. The bookings are good. Obviously, if the snow comes, then it's going to continue. I have to say, COVID was very good for Snow Camps Europe. COVID was a big win because I was able to do all of the COVID reporting. I was able to get myself on the Chinese television news network, and that grew my Facebook page and the YouTube channel significantly. And I'm now getting the payback for all of that work I did when we couldn't ski, where a lot of people kind of just shut up shop, sat there and did nothing. I kind of offered a service in that I kept people up to date with what was going on, the most accurate, up-to-date information coming out of Austria. that that's kind of catapulted snow camps, to be fair. So not all bad that came out of COVID.
I was gonna probably delve into that a little bit with you, and I'm quite interested to get your insight, I guess, from someone who running like a ski business like that, because I know we've obviously we've established a relationship over a couple of years now, but snow camps really sticks out for me, having doing a lot of stuff across social media and video platforms as a company that markets very well digitally, and especially in today's day and age, like that is important. And I actually certainly don't see a lot of I haven't come across many similar companies that do it as well as you do it. Like, the frequency of it, the community engagement part of it as well, and it just seems like you, through doing that so much, you've built up quite a loyal consumer base.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I see a lot of those other companies who are spending money on marketing, but they're not doing the social stuff. They're spending on other stuff, and they're not necessarily doing as much social. They might be posting on social, but it's normally, here's a picture of someone with their hip to the ground, or here's a picture of the view. It doesn't actually, in my opinion, add value to the person who's looking at that post or that video or that vlog or blog or whatever you want to call it. So one of our biggest things is I don't spend anything on marketing. The only thing I spend in the way of marketing materials is each year we have a different gift to give the guests. This year it's a buff. We've had water bottles, we've had backpacks, things like that. If I was spending money on marketing, obviously I would want a return, but that cost would be put onto the price of the camps, and our camps are extremely inexpensive for the product that you get when you get here. And you can see that through the reviews we've got on the Facebook page. So my marketing plan and strategy is all Facebook and YouTube. There was a bit of Instagram at one time, but Instagram lost the account, or I can't get back in, or I don't know what happened.
I don't get it. I never. It's a platform I never really understood.
I didn't really use it much, to be honest. I think since I've started doing all of the Facebook lives, which I normally do 2, maybe 3 a week, I could have also gone live on Instagram, and maybe that would have brought me a bigger audience on Instagram. But to be honest, the account going missing or whatever has happened to it wasn't really a big problem. But what is quite interesting is our consumer base, because the business has been built off the back of Facebook, is a slightly older consumer than some of the other businesses that operate in this area. So I would say my average guest age is about 49, 51. We get a fair few over 50s, over 60s, and even over 70s, which that's not a problem. That seems to be the audience that I appeal to. But also with Facebook now being predominantly older people, the youngsters have gone off to TikTok and places like Instagram. I'm not getting as many inquiries from the 20-year-old market, which is quite interesting. But again, that's not a problem. I'm more than happy to. The people who are coming are nice people. We attract. I think if people resonate with me when they get here, we get on. We've just had a camp in December. I had a few people who were returners, and then I had 6 returners and 10 new guests. One of the groups was 2 of the returners and 4 or 5 new guests. Them guys had such a good time. They've already booked to go away together to Spain later in the season.
Yeah.
And they're all talking about coming back next December to do the camp again as a group. So a group within the bigger group that we'll have. And I think that, again, is because if people are watching me on social media and they like what I'm saying, they like what I'm doing, they like my personality, we're going to get on when you get here. And if everyone's getting on, we have a blast. We have a right old laugh, We also learn to ski, or we also improve our skiing, but we have a very good time on and off the piste.
It's certainly, Facebook is one which I've this winter been trying to sort of increase my content production on alongside the videos, and yeah, you know, the more you post, the more just as a general organic growth tends to happen, little by little.
Yeah, I try on YouTube. I try to do 2 to 3 a week. But we've recently stopped with the podcasts that I was doing with Paul from the Ski Instructor Academy, because Paul actually retired and has left the business, so that kind of stopped the podcasts. And we haven't yet got a plan to get them going again, which is a bit of a shame. So my YouTube actually went down to about one a week, which was the snow report. And then I've started taking my Facebook lives and recording them to go onto YouTube, because the YouTube audience is a very different audience to my Facebook audience. But now we're on to the ski season, and I can get video of clients on their first day and on their last day, and I can show an improvement in their technique. I literally this week have started to upload those onto YouTube as well. And the views, the more you upload, the more views seem to go up. And I think in the last 2 days we've added another 20 subscribers, which is absolutely fantastic. Almost at monetization.
Yeah,
I might actually make 10 bob this year off YouTube.
Yeah. So where, I mean, because I'm in I'm like half. I've ticked the one side. I've ticked the 1,000 subscriber one, but it's the watch time that I'm still trying to reach.
That's the difficult one, and because it's a rolling watch time, isn't it? What is it? 4,000
in 12 months. And the thing that's, I mean, which is thrown made it even more challenging for those sort of small creators on YouTube like yourself and me, is they've kind of now focused everything towards shorts, you know, to try and again keep the younger audience engaged. So you know, I'm trying to sort of also work on creating these either little 15-second or 1-minute video, and it's like how do you do something like that adds value when you've spent 3, 4, 5 years creating 3-4 minute videos, you know, discussing various topics around the ski season.
I've not even looked at shorts. I know I should, but I've not even looked at it, because it takes so much of my time doing the channel and the Facebook and running the business. And I haven't even looked at shorts. I actually discovered clips yesterday. I actually looked at what clips are. I'm thinking, oh, I can do that. That's quite quick. But shorts is just, and again, I video everything with my phone this way, rather than this way. And if I've got to video it that way, and then I've got to do it that way for shorts, then it's just too much. It's too much.
It's been a weird one. I mean, for the one thing that I've managed to make work so far is using just like already footage that I've filmed. So GoPro clips that I might not have put in like a vlog, and try and slam it together and put it on the short. Now, what I will say about shorts is actually, if it takes off, you can get 1,000 views in a matter of like minutes. And it does actually can bring people to your channel in a very different way from your videos, but it will still can bring you subscribers. I know in the shorts that I've done so far, I can see that a lot more people from America have now started coming to my channel.
Yeah, it's interesting. I looked at it was about a day or two ago. I looked at your channel and saw the number of subscribers in the last like 28 days was massive. Which is interesting. What I also found out, and whether people who are watching this are finding this interesting, I don't know, but obviously we do, and that's why we're talking about it. When I do the snow report, I try and get somebody to do the intro for me. So they say, here it's the 26th of December, it's Wednesday, blah blah blah. Here's Andy Rose with the snow report, and I got a Danish girl to do it from my Danish ski instructor group in November, and she posted on she sent the link to her mum. Her mum then posted it, say, oh, look at my daughter. She's famous on YouTube. They got about 20 Danish people all subscribed to my channel.
Nice.
So it's now like, right, can I get an American to do that? Can I get a Canadian to do it? Because it's going to open me up to other markets, you know?
I mean, like every time now when I make a video, one of the things that they tell you, it's like that first sort of 10-15 seconds is crucial in terms of what you're doing. I mean, obviously, if you've got your loyal sort of audience, they're always going to come. But in terms of actually trying to attract new people, you've got to come up with something in that initial couple of seconds there that's going to grab people and make them want to still watch your video, because if not, they'll scroll on to the next thing.
But yeah, what's interesting, and this started by you saying about how we market on social, and I think a lot of ski schools, and we're not a ski school, I have to say that, a lot of ski schools don't understand the power of social media and how easy it can be to get an audience. This week, the lady I've been skiing with every morning this week, she's here because of the Facebook page and the YouTube channel. She watches the videos. She said to me on day one, "Oh, it's really strange because I feel like I know you because I watch all of the videos." That's why she was having 4 mornings of lessons with me. I've got another chap who's back for his second time in Capron. He's brought another person with him who's just had 2 mornings of lessons.
Yeah.
He only came here last March because he watched the videos on YouTube. Yeah. So it for sure works for me, and that's where the majority of the business is coming from, and that's why I will continue to entertain people with live from the lift and the snow reports and the odd bit of skiing from time to time, you know.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's interesting. But your job in Revelstoke, what are you doing?
So okay, so
let me recap. I'll rephrase that. You were working for a heli ski lodge
last winter.
Yeah. Spoke. Yeah.
Yeah. Last winter I was working in a heli ski lodge. It's one of the main attractions of Revelstoke and the mountains where we are, because of the sheer amount of snow that we get and the quality of it. There's several different heli ski operations that operate within Revelstoke, and some of them have their own lodges with those companies. Others work directly with private lodges, which is where I worked at. So that was there's only so much I can say in terms of, like, you know, what I like the actual job, but it was very much a mixture of things, probably half sort of chalet hosting in a way, but also then a lot of property maintenance and general customer service stuff. So it encompassed a couple of things that maybe I would have done working as the roles as a rep and concierge previously, but then also there was new skills that I developed. Ultimately, it was like a real insight into working in the high end side of the ski industry, which I wanted to see and basically know if I could do that side of things. And it was a really nice, challenging job, and I enjoyed every aspect of it. And it was pretty, definitely worth the early mornings and the late nights. And then coming out of that, I mean, I knew quite early on through Revelstoke that, you know, this was a place which I'd actually fallen in love with. Revelstoke has this lovely community in the town, and there's not many ski resorts that have what I'd call, you know, that type of community, because a lot of these places are just built solely for the tourists. But like certain places in Austria, like Revelstoke was it was its own town before skiing was there. So there's culture, there's history, there's all these different activities, and for a small town, it has so many things going on for it, and you're always finding new things to do throughout the years. So you know, it's a place which has 12 to 13 meters of snow in the year, but as soon as the snow melts, you can go swimming on a beach about 5 minutes away. You can go hiking, you can go biking, there's fishing. It's such a beautiful place. I found out about.
Did you not, or were you not responsible for introducing the game of cricket to Revelstoke?
Well, actually, funnily enough, so cricket had already had a history in Revelstoke, and I'd done some digging and found out that back, I guess, in colonial times, there was a club there. And I knew when I moved out to Revelstoke that there was a small group of guys that were literally just hitting a bat and a ball in a park. And I got involved with them in the summer, and through sort of previous experience at clubs back in the UK, I kind of knew a bit about, you know, organizing matches and doing things. And I found there was some actual clubs down in the valley. And so we, you know, just spent sort of a lot of the summer actually trying to take the club forward. And actually, in sort of over these winter months, was kind of hoping to sort of put them together as an actual legal structure and try and, bring it properly to Revelstoke. But that's a project that needs more than one person to put in the effort to it. So we shall see.
Okay.
But now, so now I what happened was I decided I wanted to apply for permanent residency. To do that, I was told, right, I need to be in an entry-level job for 9 months before I can apply. So I started actually working for the resort in the sales and marketing department last April. And it's been an eye-opening experience, actually working directly within the resort and understanding how a resort actually works. I think when a lot of people go skiing, they just see it, as a couple of metal poles in the ground, pylons, and some plastic tickets that they buy. But in terms of the actual operation and logistics that come to running a resort are immense. So many, but a lot of it is done with actually a small group of full-time staff surrounded by a lot of the seasonal stuff, and it's I love it. I actually found it quite hard initially adapting to being behind a desk, but I think when you want to sort of move up, I guess, in the industry and try and build a career, there's a couple of sacrifices that you've got to be willing to do there. And, I'm at that stage where I was willing to do that. The only snag, shall we say, which I just told you about before we started recording this, actually happened just last night. And I got told actually that my current role does not make me eligible to apply for permanent residency. So still trying to process that and try and just confirm that is the case, because that throws everything in terms of my life plans off the rails and will send me back to square one in September when my current permit expires. I'm hoping that's not the case, but yeah, I don't. So I don't really have the full information on it, to be honest.
Yeah, well, hopefully it'll sort itself out. But if not, sounds like you're going to be coming to Capron next winter.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I've always kind of, every time so far when there's a challenge been put in the way, I've kind of sort of adapted and come to something else. And I always loved Austria. And the way the channel's been growing.
You'd have to get a permit. You'd have to get a permit for Austria. There's a Brexit.
Yeah, I know.
You've not got a European passport, have you?
No.
Well,
I have to. I feel, because I've been out here for so long now, I've kind of sort of. I feel like I've lost touch with what is all the latest on those work requirements now for Europe. I mean, I know France finally was sorting something out with them, but I don't know if Austria had come up with a visa program yet.
So it's still a little bit grey and wishy-washy, but there's a couple of sides to this. One is Austria has got a massive shortage in seasonal and hospitality workers.
Yeah.
So the government keeps saying we are going to let in more third-party nationals, and we're going to let in another 2,000 to work in hotels and another 500 to do this and whatever. So it is. They've realised that they need third-party nationals to come in and work since COVID, when a lot of people went home. A lot of the Hungarians, the Polish, the Slovenians, the Slovakians, the Czechs who were working in Austria, they all went home and they didn't come back. Obviously, the British, nearly all of them who had left couldn't get back in.
Yeah.
The ones that were here was able to get their Article 50 cards, whether it be a 5-year or a 10-year card, and they're okay. I know of some ski schools that have been able to get permits for English instructors because they have a need for English speaking instructors, because they have a massive English school base, let's say, for their ski school business. So that's worked for them. And I think this year, one ski school, I know I've got 6 permits for 6 English people. But each one of those permits costs the ski school something like 150 euros. Mm-hmm. Now, all of the other ski schools that don't have a great need for English, like British instructors, they're not prepared to spend the 150 in case they don't get the permit. So they were like, well, we'll just attract more Polish teachers who can speak English, more Slovenian, Slovakians, Hungarians, and people who can come and work here. So a lot of the ski schools aren't prepared to spend the money to do the process.
Yeah.
The ones that are seemingly getting the approval to get people in. It now looks like, from what the Austrian government have said, is there will now be more permits for British workers to come in and work in hospitality, hotels, restaurants, bars, which are massively understaffed at the moment.
It's funny that, who would have thought, hey?
Yeah, it's exactly, yeah. The irony of it.
Yeah.
But Pavilion, like one of the main bars in Capron, up until 2 weeks ago, were 4 staff short. And it was getting so comedic. 2 girls started work, and they were Hungarians, didn't speak German, but spoke some English. So they gave them jobs, right? After 3 days, they went to the owner and said, just to let you know, at the end of January, so the beginning of February, we need to go back to, I think it was Greece or somewhere, Cyprus or somewhere like that. We have to go back to Cyprus for 4 weeks, or we lose the right to work there next summer. So we'll be back at the end of February, right? So the owner's like, February's our busiest month. You can't start work, then tell me you're going away for 4 weeks, but then you're going to come back. You've just moved into our apartments that we give you as staff members, and you're telling me you're not going to be here for the busiest month. So they went. Another guy turns up, and he was quite a nice lad. English, half Spanish. And I had a little chat with him. How you doing? Welcome to Capron. La 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 la. Next day, he's gone. He said, "Where's he gone?" A bar in Zell offered him another €250 a week, so he left.
Jeez. Because
every bar is so short, everyone's fighting for staff. Every hotel is short. In the summer, we had hotels that are normally 4-star, if not almost 5-star hotels with fine dining restaurants operating bed and breakfast because they couldn't get chefs.
Gosh.
It's insane. And other places, they just closed the kitchen for 2 days a week because they didn't have enough kitchen staff that they could operate for 7 days.
Yeah.
It's insane. So, yeah, it is getting easier for people to come and work back in Austria, as long as your employer is happy to spend the money and do the paperwork.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. But you know, I think, to be honest, kind of, I'm a few years now after COVID has settled down, I think, you know, this was bound to happen, and that things were bound to slowly start to figure themselves out and come to some compromise there, because I think it's mutual, as we're sort of kind of discussing, it's quite obvious that it's mutually beneficial to allow these other people in. Listen, Andy, we've got to wrap this up here, as I've got to shoot off to work.
A bit of work.
Yeah, I got to get to work. The time difference is it's still a bit of a it is, yeah. But listen, it's been really good to talk base with you here and catch up with everything. I hope you have a good rest of your winter.
Yeah, let's try and do it again before the end of the season.
Okay. Yeah.
Hopefully it'll have snowed and we'll be able to talk about powder days and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because like doesn't look like much of that has been happening lately. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, good stuff. I'll catch you later.
Thanks, Andy. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.